Welcome to the Encore Audio Archives YouTube channel. I'm Taper Dave, and this is my channel. I've uploaded hundreds of talks here that I've recorded at meetings in West LA, and I've also recorded conventions starting in 2013. I've got a bunch of those up. And Walt and Mary Murray, the original owners of Encore Audio Archives, started the company in the 80s, and Walt recorded Joe and Charlie's and a bunch of stuff down in Vista, California. My sobriety date is June 20th of 1994. I hope you find something you like, so please like and subscribe to my channel and comment down below. If you want to hear something that I don't have or that you don't see, I'll see that I get it. Anyways, take care and have a great day if you want to.
My name's Steve and I'm an alcoholic. I want to thank Ron for, this is just great. I mean, you wake up and look at that mountain and go, oh my God. You know, if you're like me, you go, don't fall down. Don't, you know. I have a gift for worst case scenarios. And my heart is racing now, and I'm a hypochondriac, so I'm like off, you know. It's just, problem exists between my ears. Oh, yeah. Between 5 years and 15 years, I think I went to 20 emergency rooms thinking I was dying. Apparently I didn't, but I spent a lot of money trying to figure out what I was going to die from. I thought I had every disease. I've had them all except crib death. Yet, you know, I'm going to take my jacket off because I ate a lot this year and it doesn't fit. That's why I'm going to take it off. I'm not hot, I'm freezing. If you eat a lot, stuff doesn't fit you so well. And then you don't want to buy new stuff because you're just about to lose the 20 pounds. You know, and then to buy new stuff, it's kind of like throwing in the towel anyway, you know. So you get the neurotic Jew. You had the Eskimo last night. Today you get the neurotic Jew from the streets of Beverly Hills. Watch out. You know. Oh, but it's been great. It's just almost perfect. I haven't seen a bear. I've asked Ron to bring a bear down, you know, and make it snow, you know. Okay, where's Ron? He could do weather, can't he? You know. I'm grateful to be sober. I love AA. I am not someone who had I wasn't a neurosurgeon who lost his practice, you know. I didn't have a life till I got here. I really didn't. I was so afraid, you know. If it wasn't for alcohol, I don't think I ever would have left my crib, you know. So I'm going to do the format of, you know, what I used to be like, how I got here, and, well, you already know what I'm like today. When I was new, I got the most hope from the old timers who were falling apart. So there's some newcomer here. I'd be at the White Flag Stag, and some old timer be going bankrupt and getting divorced, and his kids didn't talk to him, and that gave me hope, you know. Because I knew I'm not perfect. This is not going to be a smooth ride, but I knew I was on to something that would fit me, that I could, and I love that you didn't have to be, oh, you're so long, you got to be at this level now. You know, I love that you don't have to drink and you could start over. You know, you can go back to the first step, and in a lot of ways, that's where I am now. My life is not perfect. It's been a challenging year, you know, and I love that I could go back and always go back and talk to God early, you know. The worse the problem is, the earlier I check in with him. This morning it was really early. I could just hear him going, aren't you the guy I normally check in around 5 p.m.? What are you doing up so early? Well, let me tell you, I got to talk to these people in the mountains. I need you. Oh, yeah, well, you should have thought of this last year. I'm a native Californian, born in Southern California, youngest of 3 kids. My mom was married to a guy, which was normal in those days. Well, what wasn't? I don't want to get into it, but the man she was married to, I thought was my father until about 10 years ago. That'll send you off. Go, whoa, there's a story there. I was not, never mind. It's just, but my earliest memories were of anxiety, high anxiety. Life looked overwhelming. I felt overmatched. The world did not seem like a friendly universe. My earliest thoughts were people look like they're doing this and it's natural, and for me it's scary, and some of my childhood symptoms, I was a fingernail biter, I was a bedwetter till I was 12, I was grinding my teeth, I was when you cross you see it a lot in AA meetings, people who cross their foot's going like this. If you want a name for it, it's called idling, Alcoholics' idols are stuck on high, I was wiggly. I couldn't contain myself. They were testing me for ulcers at 11. I had the burden of everything, and if you see a kid like that, give him a drink. Oh, I needed a drink. Oh, I didn't. I was just uncomfortable. I just didn't feel right in my own skin. Hypersensitive, easy to cry, great to tease me, because there was a big payoff, and my brother and sister did relentlessly. I was a mommy's boy. They called me mommy's tail. Yeah. I'd just follow her around, protect me, mommy, and we did that. I was 5. She got divorced from that man and married my stepfather. And in my family, we don't communicate well. We don't today. We really didn't then. It was, there wasn't, we're going to sit the kids down. I'm leaving Lee. I'm marrying Sonny. This is called a divorce. We're going to marry here. We're moving. It was pack the bags. He's got money. It'll be better. And that was... camp, restaurant, movies, summer vacations. Behave yourself. Don't rock the boat. It's a better deal. This guy's an alcoholic. This guy's Mr. Moderation. He has his own business. He's got a sense of humor. We want to keep this deal going. He had 3 kids. She had 3 kids. They put all these kids in the same 3-bedroom house, and off we went, and internally, I guess for me, it was, behave yourself, lay low, don't be, and I was just this vibrating little guy, My earliest obsessions were baseball. It was 1958, the Dodgers had just come to town, and I got a little transistor radio. I would listen to the voice of the Dodgers, Vin Scully. If you don't know who he is, get a life, To this day, he's still 45, 50 years later, the announcer of the Dodgers, his voice hasn't changed that much. And when I hear his voice, my blood pressure drops to this day. And I was this little kid in bed listening to the games. And during the day, I'd go off to elementary school. We lived across the street from a park. And then I'd go into that park and play baseball. And it was baseball and drinking are the only 2 things I think I was that felt natural to me. I loved it. I would shag balls. We'd play for hours and then go home, eat dinner, go in my room, listen to the ball game, go to sleep, do the whole thing. Then Little League season would come, and I was a really terrific ball player. I mean, I was really good. I was a shortstop and the pitcher and the star of the team, and I built my whole life around that. Then I'd have little baseball games I would play in my bedroom at night and have lineups, make-believe lineups and stats and books. And this is the world I created for myself. And I got most of my self-esteem from that, being a good ball player. And then at the age of 12, you move from Little League to Pony League, and they throw the ball faster. And in order to hit a baseball, you have to step towards the pitcher. And I was stepping at this time towards my mother. And I had panic attacks. I didn't know there were panic attacks until, I didn't know why I was running to emergency rooms having panic attacks until I was sober a long time. My first one I can remember was in the batter's box as a little kid. And just, you step in the bucket and you're running, and you cannot hide that from other people. My job my whole life is to not let you know how frightened I am of you. And when you're a batter and you're afraid, you absolutely, I know, I was a drunken Little League coach for years. There's not much you can do with these kids. And of course, I had no tools. I didn't know how to ask for help. I guess a healthy kid would go up to a coach and say, I'm afraid, what could we do? Go to your parents, what do I do? Or something. What I do is to find something to blame to get out of this deal and not confess my fear. And I picked a fight with the coach and quit baseball. I gave up the thing I absolutely love the most, to not let you know how frightened I am. And it seems like the day I put down my baseball mitt with this hand, I started drinking with that. It just, I'm deeply impressed of my need to look good or my need not to look bad, how that can override massive love for other stuff. And also at that time, we were living in a city in southeast LA called Linwood, and we were the only Jewish family in this city. So I always was very self-conscious and felt too Jewish. And we started high school, we moved to Beverly Hills, where it's like 90% Jewish, and I didn't feel Jewish enough, And it's a scary school. I drive by it every once in a while. It's up on a hill. It's this great, big building, and I'm afraid of it. I'm afraid of going there. It seems like the feeling I had is that everyone, and sometimes I get it, not so much these days. I used to get it in AA, where you go to a meeting that's not your regular meeting, and it feels like they all got sober on the same day together, and who are you, That's why I think it's so important to have someone at the door saying welcome, to get over those feelings. But when I started Beverly High, it felt like they were all born the same day, and their parents were all vacation together. They went to camp, and who are you? Who are you? And I felt I was an outsider. I have no way to integrate, as Cindy was talking about last night, to a world. I don't have tools. All I have is this head talking to me. They're not going to like you. You're not going to fit in. They are smarter. And I finally found a friend who had also just moved to town, so us two outsiders hooked up. And one Saturday night, he says, there's a club up on Sunset Boulevard. I want to go there. It's a teenage dance club. And I said, okay. And we went up to this club, and it was a bad experience. I don't dance. I don't dance to this day. If you see me dancing, I have a new sobriety date. I just want to put that out there. Something to work on. Or, if you see me dancing, maybe I've had a white light spiritual experience. Come up to me in any case. Give me a breathalyzer. We went to the club, and there were kids, peers, colleagues, and I'm scared to death. There are girls there, people dancing, people talking. Let's get out of here. We leave. The week goes by. He says to me the next Friday, you want to go back? I said, I don't think so. He said, I have a bottle of vodka. Why don't you come on down? And I said, okay. And I went down to his apartment, and I remember this day as if it was yesterday. We sat, I remember we were looking, the couch was facing west in the apartment. I remember it was Smirnoff Red. I remember this glass pitcher. I remember a quart of orange juice. His mom had a bar. There was some Galliano. We mixed up the Harvey Wallbangers. Drank the whole thing, gulping, I mean, it was just, when you pour alcohol inside me, I stop biting my fingernails. That's what alcohol does for me. All my life, that little, like a little Vince Scully sitting on my shoulder doing play-by-play on how inappropriate I am. I can't believe you said that. I can't believe you did that. You're dressed wrong. You da-da-da-da-da. You put vodka in me, he gets drunk, he goes away. It's wonderful. I didn't know until I was sober. That doesn't happen to normal people. You know, my reaction was not normal to alcohol. It made a connection. I didn't go, oh my God, I love drinking. It was just connected in my soul. And we drank all that. We took a bus up to the club again. We were the only two people on the bus and lost each other somewhere on this 2-mile ride. I went into the club that night. I did not dance, but I could be with you. It was just wonderful. You seemed happy to see me. Oh, you're an out-of-towner. Welcome. You know, it was just magic. And I was to do it as much as I can, whenever I could. I abandoned myself to alcohol. That's what I did, and didn't know it. You know, I didn't have a clue. I was a good student up until the time I drank. I became a terrible student. I was a goof-off. Teachers liked me. I was a wise-ass class clown. You know, teachers liked me, but they liked me in someone else's class. You know, hi, Steve, will you transfer, please? In high school, it was always someone's parents were out of town in some big house, and that's where we're partying on the weekend, and I would put myself in charge of supply. Supply is important. Supply is vital. Alcoholics know what supply is all about. Al-Anons don't have a clue what we're talking about. You know, and I would put myself in charge of supply. You do not want an Al-Anon ordering the alcohol for the party. They can run out and not even know or care. This is a problem. So I would call up Gil Turner's liquor store, where we had a friend who was the delivery guy, and 213-651-2000. And order, you know, and order the way, I mean, you know the way we order. We order what we think is the right amount, and then we do it times 2. And drank. I was a teenage drunk. I just loved it. I made friends. I had girlfriends. I was out there doing stuff. I'm not a fighter. I'm not a violent person. I want to be with you. And alcohol lets me leave my house and be with you. I remember at 16, if they had video cameras back then of me, you would have seen a teenage alcoholic. I qualified for the program right away. I drank inappropriately and with abandon. It was never enough. I remember one night I drank a quart of scotch and water in about 45 minutes, inadvertently. You know, I'm just gulping, drinking, talking, drinking, and all of a sudden, the world's moving, you know. Remember that terrible feeling? And I didn't know till I got to AA, if you put your foot down, you know, the world stops moving. Was I sick? And I remember that night throwing up, and the next morning throwing up, and throwing up 30 times. And anything to make you this sick is bad. God, please help me. I will never, ever drink alcohol again. Went to the family doctor. I had alcohol poisoning. You know, please don't tell my parents, you know. And then by noon the next day, figuring that it was because I had diluted the scotch with the water, that it was the water, you know. And I drank the next day, because I have to drink, because it's just too wonderful when I drink, and it's just too scary when I'm not drinking. And that's the way I went through high school. I graduated in 1969 in the lower sixth of my graduating class. I know that because when I told my senior English teacher I was going to college, she said, "Oh, that's too bad." I went to a school, not Menlo College. Menlo College is not hard to get into. If anyone went, it was the last year. It was an all-male school. It's still just south of San Francisco. You needed two things to get in: potential, which I had, and a parent who'd write a check. And at that time, my parents were more than happy to write a check to get one of their kids out of town. My brother at this time, just give it a little family background, was probably a few years into what at that time was to be an 18-year heroin addiction. So he had the high ground in the family as far as trouble was concerned. There was stuff going on, car crashes. The house would get burglarized often. TVs were missing frequently, you know. And it was my mom, who is, she is sober today, didn't really drink when I was growing up, but started to drink as the problems with my brother escalated and her marriage got tougher. And as I went to San Francisco, she started to drink. And it was, so my family was just kind of rocky. So yeah, go away, go to San Francisco. And I'm up in San Francisco, and the first thing I do is get a phony ID. There's a liquor store across the street. We had a dorm room that had a Sparklets water cooler with one of those 5-gallon water things, and we cleared out the water and filled it with vodka, and I'm ready to go, you know. I'm ready for college. The great thing about college to me was I didn't have to wait for Friday and Saturday to drink. We could drink all the time. We had an early mixer, with a women's college very early in that first year, and my buddy Joey, my best friend then, my best friend today, had gone to Menlo with me. Now, when he was also an attention deficit kid. They called him hyper, or, you know, contain yourself or whatever. Well, his parents loved him enough to take him to a psychiatrist who gave him a pill called Dexamyl, which, if you're hyper, is supposed to calm you down. And they didn't calm him down, but he acted calm enough to keep the supply going. So Dexamyl is Dexedrine in Milltown. I mean, you just went, oh, I know. It's like, I equate it with the invention of the wheel. I mean, it's greeny blue with little white pebbles in it. If you smash them up, your vocabulary increases by like 100,000 words. You use them all in the first 10 minutes, you're on the pill. You smoke, you don't need matches because you just light one from the next. I remember that night, it was like, oh my God, this is really fabulous. You know, and you don't need food ever again. I mean, it's just such a waste of time to have food. You just need this pill and alcohol. I trapped this girl in the corner at this mixer and told her all about myself. And I always think to this day, if I didn't kill her with secondhand smoke that night, there's really no such thing. You know, just kind of me. So that started. I loved it. I mean, it made me a very good student. It made school interesting. It felt like it made me interesting. And I was a 10-year amphetamine addict, you know, running around the streets. You always got to have about 5 doctors, because anyone who gives amphetamines to a 140-pound little speed freak is probably going to lose his license soon. So you got to have a lot of them going. And so I'm there my first year in college, and it's a beautiful little campus. There are oak trees and green lawns and great professors. There's 10 to a class. It's for kids that screwed around, and we're going to put you back on track. We know you're bright. If you oversleep, they come to your room. Wake up, Steve. English comp starting. I had some of my best professors there. I mean, it's really a great opportunity, but when I'm not drinking or on pills, I'm restless, irritable, discontent, and something's wrong. This isn't right. I don't fit here. I don't belong here. You don't like me. Where am I going to go? I need to change my circumstances. So I'm always fantasizing of where I need to go. And in those days, I go into the library and look at other colleges to transfer to. I need to go Hawaii, Mai Tais here. Where am I going to go? And I stumble across a college. And I thought, this will work. It was called World Campus Afloat. It's also not difficult to get into. It's a college on a ship and travels around the world. And I thought, yeah, all right, I can do this. I call home. The problems are escalating. My mom's alcoholism's getting worse. My brother's, the house getting burglarized more often. We can get you not only out of the country, we can get you far away across the oceans, new continents. Can I do this, Mom? Yes, you can do this. And I applied. They took me. It's not like Harvard Law School. And all of a sudden, I'm boarding a ship in New York in October of 1971. Heading out on a 6-month trip around the world, 400 students, 300 girls, 100 guys. Oh, good odds, right? They took a long time to go from New York to London. It's about a 4-day, 5-day trip, and they go purposely on slow because you have to go to class. And I didn't have anything to drink for those 10 days. And each day I was getting wound tighter and tighter and tighter. I was afraid. I don't have my medicine in me, you scare me. Students are out, they're getting involved, there's student plays, there's seminars, and I'm afraid to leave my cabin. And I didn't think of alcohol or bringing it or what. And we finally docked in London, and I'm like running off the gangplank to go into the local bar and drink the warm beer and I'm having a feeling I need to pour alcohol on it. And that's what I did. I was never caught over the next 6 months without alcohol in my cabin. And my cultural contribution to myself was to drink the local stuff. So in Greece, it would be a case of ouzo I'd smuggle in. In Spain, it was the sangria. We landed on the island of Madeira where they make Matus wine. It was 4 cases of wine. And then I could leave my cabin. I would drink, and I wasn't falling down drunk. It would just give me the courage to go out and do what everyone else could do naturally. And I did it. I know people, it's a privilege to be. My son is 21 now. If he asked to do that, I couldn't afford to send him on something like that. And I know I was lucky to be able to do that. And I wish I remembered it. I was drunk. I didn't make a friend. I don't think we make friends when we're drunk. We could pretend we're listening to you, but we're really just waiting to talk. And that was the best I ever hoped for in my whole life. Not that anything would ever be real, but you wouldn't get to find out how goddamn scared I am of you. And I accomplished that on this trip. I didn't embarrass myself. There are pictures of me among other people in the yearbook they put out, and I'm out there. I'm not present, but I'm there. And I did that. I came back here and enrolled in a 4-year college and graduated college in 4 years only because I didn't know you could make it last for 20, I have a son now who's making it last. I was scared. I had no idea. I'm one of these people, I never dreamt. I was so busy not letting you find out anything about me, I couldn't go off into the future. And I'm like moving, people start looking at you when you're getting near college like, and this is not an original AA idea about, being, when you pay for your own life, what do they call that? When you're self-supporting through your own contribution. When you're graduating college, they expect you to have a job. Go out, leave the house, work, pay for stuff, and I was afraid of people. I had no skills, I had no tools, and I had no idea what I was going to do. It was just a bundle of fear, so I applied to law school to delay working. And They took me. I applied to one law school as an afterthought, and I got accepted. And 100%, all the cells in my body knew that it was a mistake, that they meant to reject me, and somehow I got put in the wrong pile, and that feeling a lot of us know about, of feeling fraudulent, about to be found out. Whenever I start something new, I have a great attitude. Do the homework the first 10 days, I'm spectacular. I mean, I could read my own writing, everything's lined up, and in law school, I'm ready. First case, Hamer versus Sidway, contracts. I read it, it's short, little consideration case. My last name is Abrams, alphabetically, I'm screwed, And I sit here. That's where Abrams always sits, is right there in law school, and they have a whole thing, and the professor's there, and it's scary. It's scary for normal people. And he calls me, and the format in law schools, they have a little Socratic dialogue. Ask you a question about the case and get you to think in different ways about this and that. And he calls my name, and I stand up, and I've read the case, and I know the case, and the case is not complicated. And I have a panic attack in front of the class. The same thing the little kid in the batter's box had. Because I had poured alcohol on every single emotion I had had from that age to now I'm 22 in law school. I'm a 14-year-old guy. He's trying to engage me, and the mouth is dry, and I'm sweating. I love that phenomenon of sweating. The water is supposed to be in my mouth, not in my eyes. I'm vibrating. I hear his question, and it's just going bzzz, around and around, and I can't engage. I can't put my mind in gear to answer the question, and I'm being publicly humiliated. And he was kind. He gave up on me and moved over to someone else. And I can't wait for class to end to run out and go to a bar and pour alcohol on top of it and get rid of the feeling. I don't go to the professor and say, I just freaked out in class, help me. I run out and pour alcohol on it. I have a drink, which a drink to me is two doubles. And when I have two doubles, I'm either going back to class or I'm going somewhere else. I can't predict. I intend to sit down and have a couple doubles to calm myself down to go back to school, but I don't know. If I'm feeling sad, I like to go to sometimes a piano bar and listen to sad music. That's what you do with sadness. And I did that for 2 years in law school. I was to not answer when they called my name over the next 2 years. I know anonymity before I got to Alcoholics Anonymous. When I think of it now, when they go, is Steve Abrams? And I wouldn't answer. So this is not a self-esteem builder. I didn't exist. And just laying low and taking amphetamines and drinking and that was my whole life. Just stay below the radar. Don't cause any waves. And I was moving along somewhere in the middle of law school, in the middle of my class academically, scared to death. Law school's 3 years. I'm getting close to, they look at you like you're going to be a lawyer. And I'm like, oh, really? I don't think so. What happened is, after I finished my second year of law school, there was a friend in the family who had a car dealership in Chicago, and he had a place in Palm Springs. He'd go out in the middle of winter, and he would call me up and say, hey, come on out, let's go golfing. Now, I had this drunken father, or this guy I thought was my father who was a drunk. I had this stepfather who was Mr. Moderation, who was constantly looking at my mother's kids like, oh my God, just stop that, Can't you just have 8, And now I have this other male figure who shows up in my life and all of a sudden seems to be someone who would appreciate me. And he has this car dealership. He had a son who was drinking and swimming and drowned. And he says, I have no one to turn this business over to. And I was to find out years later that this man was my biological father, and that's why he took an interest in me. But he said, come to Chicago, and you'll be a millionaire by the time you're 30. Well, I have good values. And I swear, I miss big stuff. If you move a chair in a room, I notice it. I miss big stuff, like he didn't mention the word work, but it was implied, you know. I must have thought, well, we'll golf, we'll drink, watch games, hang out. I'm 30, Shelley. Okay, here's your check. You know, you can go home now. I mean, that, because I got there and he thought I should sell cars. I wanted to go, I don't think so. I'm afraid of people. And I really don't care if they buy a car or not. So I'm on the showroom floor in the south side of Chicago selling Novas. You know, people walk in, your name's on the list, your turn, you can have it. You know, and then they show all the salesmen's numbers up on the thing, and Steve won. You know. And my drinking had lost. I'd been left the fun phase where I could be with you, and I was now in the fun and problems phase of my drinking. I was drinking inappropriately, drinking all the time, and sometimes in the early days, it was this stimulant and this uninhibitor and party time, and that's the way it was about half the time in Chicago, and the other half was drinking and getting depressed and going deeper inside myself. And I never knew when I started how it would go. Didn't turn out well there. He was the first person to confront me with my drinking. My goal always was to not let you see how much I drank, because I couldn't be confronted with it, because I couldn't imagine not drinking. And he said to me, your life is in trouble, you know. You have a drinking problem. I was drinking in the mornings. And he was the first person to call me on that. And I was to get on Christmas Eve. While I was there, I got arrested for drunk driving. I had captured his Corvette when he was in Palm Springs. One of those nights, I'm looking for her. You know, I'm lost in the city of Chicago. Half the time, I ended up in Indiana. You know. And then I go, oh, I think this is her block, and I made a left turn from the far, 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 far right lane, cut off a cop. And I thought, I'll get out of the car quick so he doesn't know I'm drunk. Went right on my face, you know. Guy, get in the car. Don't I get a test? Get in the car. Aren't you supposed to make me walk a line? Get in the car. Got in the car, got the drunk driving trial that day. Now it's Chicago's fault. You know, it's always someone else, something else has come back. Day of the trial, I'm going back to law school, and left Chicago with my tail between my legs. I'll go back and I'll be a lawyer. And I didn't know I lost the ability to control and enjoy my drinking. I didn't have a clue. I re-enrolled in law school to finish that last year. I'd sit, I'd drive. It was down Wilshire Boulevard in L.A. I live in Westwood. I put the bottle between my legs, and I'd drive down there to get the drinking, to get the courage to go in the parking lot, to get the courage to go in the building, to get the courage to go sit in the classroom. Sometimes it worked, and sometimes it didn't. And I got within 2 classes of graduating, where I was fingerprinted to take the bar and measured for cap and gown, didn't show up for an exam, and they flunked me out. And I am not a lawyer today, which is something for you to be grateful for. If you're having a little trouble being grateful for something today, he's not a lawyer. I flunked out of law school, and right around that same time, his stepfather died, and he was playing racquetball and had a heart attack and dropped dead. And he was the man I always wanted to love me like a father. He was the man I wanted his approval, and my last conversation with him was that conversation. I think most of us have had it when we're drinking and you don't look anyone in the eye anymore. And they can't look at us because they're just too painful to see what we're doing to ourselves. And I can't look at him because I'm so ashamed of what I've done to my life. This kid with potential and this sense of humor was just, now I was just nothing. All I was about was drinking and taking. That was my whole life, and he died at the low point of my relationship with him. And what do I do about that? I drink about that. I drink about everything. I drink at funerals and weddings and bar mitzvahs and births. That's what, I'm having an emotion, sadness, happiness, I'm drinking. And now my mom's a full-blown alcoholic by this time, and she has reason to drink. And she's got this nice house in Beverly Hills. My brother's on drugs here. My sister's married to an alcoholic. I'm an alcoholic. And all the fun and laughter that had gone on sporadically in my family, it was over. It was gone. It was depressing. And she inherited a lot of money, so I inherited money. Or she kept giving me money to prop my life up because she felt guilty, I guess. And I would go by her house at that time and put my key in the back door, and I'd talk to God. I always talked to God, but it was more like a trouble, a 911 God. Help, alert, I need you. Once in a while something really great happened. It was thank you, a little gratitude, but it was here. It wasn't in my everyday life. And I put that key in her back door and walked down the long hallway talking to God the whole way. Please, God, I can't find my mom dead. I can't deal with it. And I have a big stripe of Al-Anon rescuer in me, and I just said, I can't, please. And I'd go in and she'd be drunk. She was a half-gallon vodka drinker, and she'd be passed out on this couch and come to, and she was suicidal, and she was changing her will every day, and it was you're in, you're out, you're in, you're out. It was I was living in an apartment in Westwood, drinking those times. I was going nowhere. The alcohol wasn't getting rid of the fear and expanding my life. It had shrunken down to this yellow rocking chair and this brown tumbler and cheap scotch and drink and gag and drink and gag and lonely, and the friends had gone and the girls had gone, not knowing, passing out and waking up and not knowing if it was dusk or dawn, and if I went to the door and the paper was there, then it's dawn, and if someone stole my paper, I was 12 hours off for the rest of the day. Got arrested again for drunk driving, and then I'm public now, 2 arrests for drunk driving within a year. And he gave me a test. He said, do the alphabet, and I got to L and jumped to R, and then he just said, get in the car, and I said, I swear I know the alphabet. I'll never forget this. I said, I was just in law school. You can't be in law school and not know the alphabet. It's a requirement. Give me another shot at it. And then I'd go from K to S, and alcohol, I really kind of changes you. I was alone in my apartment. The drapes were drawn. I didn't answer the phone. I'd check on my mom once in a while, and my life was over. Everything was cut off. It was just me and drinking. And my buddy, when my girlfriend left, I'd gone to an AA meeting. She said, now you drink too much. And I was verbally abusive with her. That's my thing. I feel bad about me, so I have to break you down. So you stay with me. And she finally got tired of my act and left. And I said, I'll go to AA, and I called AA Central Office, and they told me about a meeting, Monday night, Ohio Street, and I went to the meeting. And I sat against the wall and cried. I just sobbed. I wanted so much to be like my stepfather told, just have a couple drinks. It's not against the law. I wanted to be able to use my willpower to control and enjoy my drinking. And I just felt like a loser being in AA, and I wasn't done. I remember something the speaker said that night. He drank they were out of alcohol in the house, so he snuck in the bathroom and drank the Scope mouthwash. And I never drank Scope. I drink Scotch. I don't identify with you. And I was keep drinking. And how I finally got to AA was my buddy Joey called me one night and he said, I met this girl. I think you should take her out. I hadn't been out on a date in about 2 years. I was not a good catch. Well, aren't you a lot of fun passed out on the couch? So I said, okay. I don't know why I said okay, but I said, okay, I'll take her out. And I knew I wouldn't drink because I couldn't predict my behavior. I used to be so proud of the fact I could have a fifth of scotch and no one could tell I was drunk. And at this point in my life, I could have one drink, and the tongue like was 5 times its size. So I thought, okay, I'll take her out. I won't drink. And I took her out, and she was adorable, cute, successful little blonde. She still does. She writes music for movies and TVs and TV shows. And so she had success in her life, and she was adorable, great sense of humor, and which meant I couldn't ask her out again for fear she may say, "What do you do?" "I drink." "Is that it?" "I watch Jeopardy." "You have a nice apartment. How do you pay the rent?" "Mom, how old are you? 28? This is embarrassing, and I have enough sense to know that, so I'll spare her being embarrassed for me. I won't ask her out again. And I didn't, except I called her about 2 weeks after our date in a blackout and told her stuff. And every year I call her on my birthday and say, "Nan, tell me the story," And I called her in a blackout. I get chills now. It was God. In my life, when I think of Steve Abrams calling someone and telling him stuff I had kept hidden from my best friend, from my mothers, from my brothers, from my sisters, from therapists, everything. That was my goal, was to not let you know. And I told her stuff in that conversation I had hidden from everyone. I said, I hate myself, I hate my life, and I have a major drinking problem that I have to address. And she says, "Well, I'm in OA, but I know where there's an AA meeting, and if you want, I'll take you there Sunday." And I said, "That would be great." And she called me the next day, suspecting I may unsurrender. But I didn't, I drank after that. I drank on Saturday night. My last drink was August 9th. Saturday night, I went with my buddy Joey, who had a drink in this restaurant, left half a drink. I don't think that means particularly anything, except I was in this state of surrender and was really kind of winding down. The body parts hurt, my kidneys hurt, or my liver hurts. I don't know, all those organ pains. But she took me to the meeting. Sean Allen was the first speaker I heard Sunday noon, Ohio Street, a guy from Canada. He was bright, he was articulate, he was funny, and he told stuff that I was going in my head, me too, I did that. I didn't know that was the magic of identification. I had ears and I had surrender. I was identifying, not comparing. He talked about feeling separated from the world by a pane of glass. And I remember I used to watch people come home from work and go, God, they're like Martians. Where are they going? Where are they coming from? I'll never have a life like that. How do they have families and wives and treat people well? I felt so foreign. And he talked about that same feeling, that feeling of feeling better than you or worse than you, never even with you. And he talked about drinking and wanting to control and just having to and overshooting and never knowing and taking pills and hiding it. And going to different liquor stores and not letting people know. And I was going, oh my God, I'm not alone. And I hooked up, identified. How many days over those last 5 years I didn't want to drink, and I'd just cave in and end up drinking. And I took the first half of the first step that night. I am powerless over alcohol. Boy, you bet. I totally got it. And I thought my life was unmanageable because I was trying to manage it drunk. And if you just remove alcohol from me, I'm going to get wonderful. I'll probably go back to law school and straight to the Supreme Court, I knew nothing about alcoholism. I didn't know my problems would soon start. Because in a lot of ways, things do get better. And in a lot, you do not get arrested for drunk driving if you're not drinking. You do remember going to sleep if you're not drinking. You do not have blackouts if you're not drinking. And I had an exhilarating feeling. My mom followed me into sobriety, which I love having more time than her. When she suggests stuff, which she does often, I can say, well, maybe when you have my length of sobriety, you'll see that differently. When she's talking to me. She got hooked up with the Pacific group. Now, I had a job at a travel agency when I was newly sober. They were paying me $1,000 a month. They were just installing computers. I had a little knowledge about doing this. I'm sober, and she's paying me $1,000 a month, and I put myself on commission. Now, that's the kind of decision sponsorless people have, you know. I made $82.72 the first month. So my mom goes to Pacific Group, and she gets little Millie as her sponsor, and one of the first things Millie tells my mom is to stop giving me money. So if there's anyone new here, that sponsors are people that meddle, you know, they get... They tell people to do stuff that's none of their goddamn business, you know. I'm not taking food off my mother's table, Millie, you know. Go away. You know, I had an indoor job and I had a tan. They don't go together, you know. I'd kind of stroll into work around noon after laying by the pool. Anyone call? No. Okay, see ya. Now Millie intervenes, you know, and I got to start working. I was going to enough meetings. I was absolutely unwilling and terrified of sharing in an AA meeting. I was anonymous in AA. Meetings where they call on you. I had bad experiences in law school about having panic attacks. I was not going to do that in AA. I love the meetings. I loved identifying, but I would absolutely not let you know who I was. I would come in after the participation was over, sit down, and just soak it in. I was terrified. I heard them say, I heard enough, don't get emotionally involved, you know, in your first year. And I thought, well, you shouldn't, but I should, you know. And I had some woman strolled into the travel agency one day, and I ignited a little obsession. Whatever a little obsession is, kind of like a jumbo shrimp, you know. And I didn't want anyone intervening in my obsession. You know, I pursued her into the gates of insanity. And she got pregnant. Yeah, she got pregnant, and we didn't get along vertically at all. I mean, something that... I didn't like her. She wasn't nice. Shut up, I hate you, lie down. You know, it was kind of that kind of thing. We're friends today. She just stayed in my house. It's amazing what the program can do. But she got pregnant. Oh my God, you know, I'm not going to marry you. I'm Catholic. I'm having a baby. Oh, wow. I don't make a living. I have no friends. I haven't worked a step. I don't have a sponsor. I go to meetings, but I'm kind of hanging in the back, you know. And on my second AA birthday, I took a 2-year cake at Roxbury Park, went to the hospital. My son Max was born. And I'm scared to death. Her family's angry at me for not marrying her. And I'm scared. I don't have money. I know I'll always be this kid's father. I know I'll be involved in his life. I can't see how this is going to work out. And what happened was her parents came out from Ohio, and the local parish priest didn't want to baptize Max because her relationship with me was unresolved, and I'm Jewish and she's Catholic. And her parents come out and say he has to be baptized because something can happen, and he can end up in purgatory for billions of years. And I'm saying I just want to take him in the stroller and get him outside, you know. I don't think the tree will fall on him, but who knows, you know. And I'm telling my mom this story, and I'm kind of crazy at this time. I mean, I'm like whacked out, and she's going to a lot of meetings and very involved. And I'm telling her, and she's going, you're going to drink, you're going to drink. I said, I'm not even thinking about drinking, Mom. I need to baptize this kid. She goes, it's so funny you should say this. I heard this Catholic priest talk at a meeting. You know, let me get his number. Maybe you can manipulate him into... So, the Jews are on the case. Okay. The Jews are going to baptize Max Abrams. All right. I'm ready. Give me his number. She gets his number. I call him up. Terry, hi, this is my story. Are you in AA? Yes. Do you go to meetings? Well, yeah. Not the same meeting twice, but I do go to meetings. I'm speaking in the Valley. Why don't we meet and we'll talk afterwards? Okay. I go to the meeting. It was a hot August night. They had moved the meeting into a courtyard. There was no lights on the audience, just a light on the speaker, my kind of meeting. And for me, it was the most important night of my life, more important than the day I quit drinking. Is this man came to the podium that day, and when the student's ready, the teacher appears, and he has been my teacher for the last 21 years and a few months. I walked up to him afterwards and said, the most important thing I think any of us ever say here is help, help. I'm out of ideas. You know, I've been running the show. I realize now that not drinking is just, you know, that has not solved my problem. And I said, I need a sponsor. I need help. And he did not baptize my kid. That was never put on the agenda. And he said, I have a group downtown. Maybe you'll show up. It's called the White Flag Stag. And I did. I started going there, and that became my home group for the next 15 years and going to the Pacific group on Wednesdays. Still go, 22 years later. Went there. The format of the meeting is the leader shares and everyone participates. The guys sit and that's how I surrendered to being willing to look bad. You know, that was the biggest thing for me, the willingness to be embarrassed. I think I get as much life as I am willing to be embarrassed. I think I was really born to be like an ice skating judge and just hold up numbers on how you're doing, you know. It's a natural for me. I don't get a life doing that. And my prayer before I speak or do anything is I have to be willing to be embarrassed, willing to be a creature of God, and then I get a little bit of life, and I get to be a man among men and not feel better than you or worse than you. And I would share every week there, little bits. The first guy I ever sponsored was a 75-year-old newcomer, a blind man named Jay. And I would pick him up every Monday for the next 5 years until he moved away. The first time I read the book, I read it to this blind guy. And I was a newcomer, and I was like this mean sponsor. I'd make him take buses everywhere. I'm surprised he didn't kill himself. I'm embarrassed. Meet me in Westwood. Okay. Oh, my God. I worked the steps. I wrote an inventory with my sponsor. I remember I'd finally gotten a sponsor, and I thought, now I should only tell them the good stuff about me to impress them and make them like me more. How about an inventory? You know, I said, what do you want in there? He says, just the kinky, embarrassing stuff. I'm thinking, oh, gee, just the stuff I don't want to tell you. And I wrote it and I read it to him. And he spoke at Ohio Street that night. And we went over to the meeting. And I walked into that meeting a different member of Alcoholics Anonymous. I felt like it was certainly not my idea to share this with another person. I had taken a step against what I thought was best and walked in and felt like the seat, you all earn your seat by drinking. It seems a little more reserved when you start working the steps, you know. And I walked in there and got involved, you know, and got commitments in meetings, sweeping the floor at Ohio Street. I love sweeping the floor, and I'd look at the other half of the room and go, I'm better than him, you know. My side's cleaner than his, you know. Drawn slowly into the program, hid for 5 years from sharing, you know, absolutely horrified. I've come to the podium and had panic attacks. The surrender for me was the willingness to have a panic attack in front of you and show you how scared I was. Made amends. The magic of that step for me is I want to live my life that if I'm in an office building, an elevator comes down, the door opens, anyone from any time in my life can be on that elevator, and I can look them in the eye. That's the state I want to be in, and I think amends did that for me. I wasn't rooting against people anymore. I felt even with you. My favorite amends story is that guy in Chicago, my father, really. Had loaned me money when I got sober. I had credit card debt because I'm a big shot. If I see you, I'm picking up your tab, you know, because I don't want you to know how bad I'm doing. And now I got the creditors coming. He had loaned me money, and I told him, I'm sober. I want to pay you back. And he had a lot of money, and he said, you know what? I'm just proud of you that you're sober. You don't have to pay me back. But I kept thinking, you know, it's his money. I want to give it back to him. And I wrote him a check. And I said, I know you don't need it, but my program tells me I have to give back money that's not mine, and go buy yourself some golf balls or something. And he called me, he was crying. He said, no one pays me back money. You know, it's amazing. He said, I tore your check up. And I threw it away. Can you forget about it now? And I said, yeah. I remember I called my sponsor. I said, Terry, this is great. I said, here's the perfect amends. You give someone back their money in the form of a check, you're done, and they throw it away. Hey, this is like perfect spiritual. He says, the perfect amends is when you give them the money and you want them to keep it. I said, well, I'll keep coming back. It's an amazing life, you know. It's an adventure. It's a journey. It is certainly, my life has been chaotic. I have been the common denominator. It has not been smooth sailing. I'm in the game. You know, that's how I'm judging it. I'm in the game. It is good, bad, and indifferent. I've been married and I've been divorced. I've had challenges with my son and joys with my son. When I was about 7 years sober, I came back from a trip and my brother came searching for me, and apparently at that time searching for sobriety. And he lived with me and he got sober, and we were to start a business. And partners for years. And then he was sneaking pills, and he wasn't acting right. And then he was, I'm going to stay home, I'm going to change my sobriety date and get back in the program. And it hasn't worked out that way. And my partnership with him is being terminated. And he was on a 1.5, 2-year heroin run, and I see him in meetings now. And I'm not, you know, and it's just created another mess in my family. And that's what's going on right now, is there's tension with my mother and tension. And what I've been able to do this time is call my sponsor and 100%, I'm 23 years sober, and say, what's the next move? What's the right behavior? What do I do now? That's my life today. My mother is not talking to me. That's okay. You know, my goal was to repair my relationship with my mother and be a good son. My sponsor said I am a good son. The fact that she's not talking to you doesn't make you a bad son. It's sad, though. That's the reality for me today. It makes me sad. My ducks are not lined up. My business, I like it when I'm a lot more fun when I'm making a lot of money. Trust me. My sponsor, a priest, says he likes me better when I'm making money, for God's sakes. You're more fun to be around when you got money. Thanks. You know, I want all these ducks lined up. I want my girlfriend, my wonderful girlfriend who I met years ago. 6 years we've been together. It's like a record, you know. I love you. You know, I feel lucky to have you in my life. I want her to love me. I want my mom to talk to me. They're not my ducks, you know. I want them to line them up. They're not my ducks. This is God's world. You know, my job is to not drink and show up and keep my chin up to show what God's sending me, and not get lost in what Steve does, is put his chin on his chest and go, how do I figure this out? You know, and as a result of surrendering daily and being with you and trying to stay involved in AA in the middle, I get a life. I know that if I don't drink, then there's laughter today. I know there's joy ahead. I know there's no mistakes in God's world. I want to see how it all turns out. And I love you, and thanks for listening.
I think we got a great talk going on here. Thanks for watching the channel. Taper Dave here. Just curious, do you think this is better than Zoom? Okay, this is how I prepare my drone for launching. I like to do it inside the cab of my truck so I'm not standing outside in the weather. to install the joysticks for control. Up and down, right and left, powered on. I have an Android phone that I use to connect it to the drone with. And it's actually controlled through the iPhone, through an app. Oops, wrong way. It's actually controlled through the iPhone, or through this Android phone, through the app. It's actually controlled through the Android phone through an app, and you connect it through this short connection right here.
Remote control connected.
Remote control's connected. So I pull out the drone. I have to extend the legs. Long legs extended first, then the short legs. Remove the gimbal protector. Set that aside, then power it on one short burst, then one long burst. I lay it down. So I have to go to calibrate. So the drone's not connected yet. It shows you here as this drone gets disconnected, even though the remote's powered on. So the drone has to establish it's connected. So I go into the app to calibration mode. First I'll calibrate the remote controller. Start calibration. Out, in, out, in, up, down, and then this little wheel is to control the gimbal. So it's calibrated. Go to gimbal calibration, start calibration, and then it calibrates the gimbal. And if that shows up, the gimbal's moving all over the place. Changes, you can see it on the video. And I'm calibrated to take off. It's acquired 7 satellites at the moment. There are 26 satellites up in the sky, which it has to acquire before you can take off. So it's connected. It's got enough satellites. This is white. I can go to press this little arrow button, swipe right to take off, and it would start the motors if I slid this to the right. But I'll wait till I get outside. Don't want to do it inside.